1 Kings chapter 1. And King David was an old man, advanced in days, and they put clothes around him, and he was not warmed. And his servants said to him, Let them seek to our master the king a young virgin, and she shall stand beside the king, and she will be warming him, and she shall recline in his bosom, and our master the king shall be heated. And they sought a goodly young woman from out of every border of Israel, and they found Abishag the Shunammite, and brought her to the king. And the young woman was goodly to the sight exceedingly, and she was warming the king, and ministered to him. But the king did not know her. And Adonijah, the son of Haggith, lifted up, saying, I shall reign. And he appointed to himself chariots and horsemen, and 50 men to run in front of him. And his father did not make a reproach to him at any time, saying, Why is it that you have done thus? And he was good in the appearance exceedingly, and he was born after Absalom. And his communications were with Joab the son of Zeruiah, and with Abiathar the priest, and they helped following after Adonijah. And Zadok the priest, and Benaiah son of Jehoiada, and Nathan the prophet, and Shimei, and Ray, and the ones being mighty to David were not with Adonijah. And Adonijah sacrificed sheep and calves and lambs by the stone Zoheleth, being next to the spring of Enrogel. And he called all his brethren of the sons of the king, and all the men of Judah, the servants of the king. But Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah, and the mighty ones, and Solomon his brother, he did not call. And Nathan said to Bathsheba, mother of Solomon, saying, Did you not hear that Adonijah son of Haggith reigns, and our master David knows not? And now come, I will advise you with advice, so that you should preserve your life, and the life of Solomon your son. Come, enter unto King David, and you shall say to him, Have you not, O my master, O king, sworn by an oath to your bondwoman, saying that Solomon your son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne? Then why is it that Adonijah reigns? And behold, while you are speaking there with the king, that I shall enter after you, and I will fulfill your words. And Bathsheba entered to the king in the inner chamber. And the king was an old man exceedingly, and Abishag the Shunammite was ministering to the king. And Bathsheba bowed and did obeisance to the king. And the king said, What is it to you? And she said, O my master, O king, you swore by an oath to the Lord your God to your bondwoman, saying that Solomon your son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne. And now, behold, Adonijah reigns, and you, O my master, O king, do not know. And he sacrificed calves and lambs and sheep in multitude, and called all the sons of the king, and Abiathar the priest, and Joab the ruler of the force. And Solomon your bondman he did not call. And you, O my master, O king, the eyes of all Israel are towards you, to report to them who shall sit upon the throne of my master the king after him. And it will be in the sleeping of my master the king with his fathers, that I will be myself and Solomon your son as sinners. And behold, while she spoke with the king, that Nathan the prophet entered. And it was announced to the king, saying, Behold, Nathan the prophet. And he entered in front of the king, and did obeisance to the king upon his face upon the ground. And Nathan said, O my master, O king, have you said, Adonijah shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne? For he went down today and sacrificed calves and lambs and sheep in multitude, and called all the sons of the king and the rulers of the force, and Abiathar the priest. And behold, they are eating and drinking before him, and said, Let King Adonijah live. And me, your bondman, and Zadok the priest, and Benaiah son of Jehoiada, and Solomon your bondman, he did not call. Is this thing taken place through my master the king? And you did not make known to your bondman who shall sit upon the throne of my master the king after him? And King David answered and said, Call to me Bathsheba. And she entered before the king and stood before him. And the king swore by an oath and said, As the Lord lives, who ransomed my soul from out of all affliction, that as I swore by an oath to you according to the Lord God of Israel, saying that Solomon your son shall reign after me, and he shall sit upon my throne instead of me, that thus I will act in this day. And Bathsheba bowed upon her face upon the earth, and did obeisance to the king, and said, Let my master King David live into the aeon. And King David said, Call to me Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah son of Jehoiada. And they entered before the king. And the king said to them, Take with you the servants of your master, and set Solomon my son upon my mule, and lead him unto Gihon. And let Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anoint him there for king over Israel, and trump the horn, and you shall say, Let King Solomon live. And you shall ascend after him. And he shall enter, and he shall sit upon my throne, and he shall reign instead of me. And to him I gave charge to be for leader over Israel and over Judah. And Benaiah son of Jehoiada responded to the king, and said, May it be so. May the Lord God of my master the king confirm it. As the Lord was with my master the king, so may he be with Solomon, even to magnify his throne above the throne of my master King David. And Zadok the priest went down, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah son of Jehoiada, and the Cherethite, and the Pelethite, and they sat Solomon upon the mule of King David, and took him to Gihon. And Zadok the priest took the horn of the oil from out of the tent, and anointed Solomon, and trumped the horn. And all the people said, Let King Solomon live. And all the people ascended after him, and all the people joined in a dance by companies of dancers, and making glad in great gladness. And the earth tore with the sound of them. And Adonijah heard, and all the invited ones with him, and they completed eating. And Joab heard the sound of the horn, and said, What is the sound of the city sounding? While he was speaking, that, behold, Jonathan son of Abiathar the priest came in. And Adonijah said, Enter, for you are a man of power, and for good you announce good news. And Jonathan answered and said to Adonijah, And by all means our master King David established Solomon to reign. And the king sent with him Zadok the priest, and Nathan the prophet, and Benaiah the son of Jehoiada, and the Cherethite and the Pelethite. And they sat him upon the mule of the king. And Zadok the priest anointed him, and Nathan the prophet, as king at Gihon. And they ascended from there, making glad. And the city sounded this sound which you heard. And Solomon is seated upon the throne of the kingdom. And also the bondman of the king came to bless our master King David, saying, God make good the name of your son Solomon above your name, and magnify his throne above your throne. And the king did obeisance upon his bed. And indeed thus the king said, Blessed is the Lord God of Israel, who gave today from out of my seed one sitting upon my throne, and my eyes see it. And all the ones called by Adonijah were startled, and rose up, and each departed unto his way. And Adonijah feared from the face of Solomon, and rose up and went forth, and took hold of the horns of the altar. And it was announced to Solomon, saying, Behold, Adonijah fears King Solomon. And he takes hold of the horns of the altar, saying, Let King Solomon swear by an oath to me today, to not put to death his bondman by the broadsword. And Solomon said, If he should be a son of power, not in any way should there fall from his head a hair upon the ground. But if evil should be found in him, he shall be put to death. And King Solomon sent and brought him from on top of the altar. And he entered and did obeisance to King Solomon. And Solomon said to him, Go unto your house.